Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for November 13th, 2012. I'm Cayenne Anderson.
I'm Joe Lynch.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry, we're supposed to, and you're Blake Evitt. Sorry, we had a quick run through. Sorry about that, folks. Tonight we take a break for the political arena after last week's election to explore a new cultural phenomenon that's sweeping the nations around the globe. Parkour. The sport of dynamic movement through the urban environment has made its way to Somerville, and our guest tonight is the person responsible for that. Founded in France by David Bell, this unique agility training has made its way to the Americas through the help of Parkour Generations America. Our guest tonight has recently launched his own company, well, it's the Parkour Generations America, in Boston's Somerville branch to give the community a unique opportunity to use parkour to enrich and better their lives. And he's here tonight to tell us why. It is with great pleasure that I welcome for his debut appearance here on Greater Somerville tonight, Blake Evitt to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
There you go, a debut.
Yeah.
How about that debut appearance?
I feel special. I've come home.
Yeah, and what do we say? That I don't like to do this, but Joe likes to do this. This is weird being in this seat. You know what? I'm used to sitting over there.
We switched over only because we're going to have Blake. Once you learn what parkour is, we're going to have him demonstrate here and vault right over.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a vault.
Would you like to do that?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
there you go.
The SCAT TV system.
There you go. We have a tradition here, though.
We do.
On Greater Somerville. We ask our guests, certain guests, to do the weather.
Special guests.
To do the weather.
To do the weather.
Okay.
The weather brought to you by Parkour Americas. Blake Evitt.
Generations Americas.
Parkour Generations Americas.
Well, we have to. No, you have to tell them what to do.
All right.
What is the
So
weather?
you have to look out the window and you have to tell Somerville what the weather is.
It's not great. It's a little bit drizzly and nice temperate fall climate.
You know what?
I like it. Very good, Blake. Thank you.
We already have a caller, and I am not really sure why, because we don't even have the number up. So if you can wait just maybe 5-10 minutes so we can kind of get into this, and then we'll call back. Maybe it's someone, maybe it's your mother calling.
Knowing my mother, it might be
I bet she's
yeah.
watching.
Yeah, I think she is.
Hi to Brandon at home. But anyway.
Hi, Mom.
So what happened here? My technology is broken. So what we want to get into a little bit is what parkour is. And we have a little video. We're going technologically savvy on Greater Somerville here tonight, so you guys.
We're going to try
We're
anyway.
going to try, and so can you switch it to the?
Do you want me to break this?
Switch it. Break it.
All right. I was told to hit this.
Okay,
so here is a video about parkour.
Okay.
Ready? Set.
To celebrate the launch of Yotta's mobile accessories.
Does that work?
I've been practicing parkour now for about 8 years, and probably the most exciting thing about it now for us is to work with other people, to teach others, to see them learn, especially people that never can.
Are we not showing? We have our technical director here.
Technical director.
To be very effective, we aim to be
Sitting there, but not there.
to be able to.
So this is yeah. So this is what we get for trying to be creative here at Greater Somerville. Is it?
I'm never creative.
Is it playing? Is it playing out there? Is the question.
It's not playing out there. So what we're going to do, instead of have some dead air, we're going to introduce Blake Evitt, and Blake is going to tell us a little bit about parkour. For the younger viewers, I think they know what parkour is because it's a phenomenon. You were explaining to me before the show that it kind of swept through countries like France and Belgium and Germany. So why don't you take it from there, because your perspective is better than mine.
So parkour was developed in the 1980s by a small group of kids in the banlieue, or the suburbs outside of Paris. And from there, they kind of developed this, what was originally just play, and they take what the kind of kids play out here in the park, and they developed it and kept going with it and kept going and kept going. And by the time they were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, they had created something that was very unique, and they decided to make that their career. They then were shown in a few kind of presentations and plays, and then there was a major motion picture, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And
what's the reference point for the viewers at home? That motion picture will tell them.
The major motion picture that most people know is James Bond Casino Royale. which 2005, that was really kind of the debut of parkour on an international scene that exposed it to a worldwide audience. And that was also kind of the time that YouTube came around, and that meant that these videos went viral. People saw them and were like, that's amazing, I want to do that too. And these groups all around the world started up. And Parkour Generations was one of those groups. And since then, it's just been growing and growing and growing. It's actually the fastest growing sport on YouTube, if you look at the statistics.
So now I have a quick question for you. I was doing a little research on parkour, and one of the things, there was a little controversy about whether or not you called it a sport. And I found it very fascinating that you just called it a sport, so I think it's okay. I was going to use that reference, but I didn't want to offend you.
I bounce between calling it a sport, a discipline, and an art form.
Okay.
Because to me, it's all three. I approach the training the same way I approach training for a sport. I was a Division I athlete in school. I ran cross country and track.
Yep.
For what school?
Davidson College in North Carolina.
There you go.
And so I approached my parkour training in a very similar way that I did my track training. But at the same time, there is the creative aspect to it that makes it much more similar to an art form. And the mental aspect is very similar to a martial arts. Something like capoeira or kind of one of the Eastern martial arts like...
For those of you over 50, like myself, if you remember, now Blake started parkouring in the Brown schoolyard because you are a native of Somerville.
I am a native.
Somervillian.
I grew up playing on the rocks of Powderhouse Park.
That's right.
That was my absolute favorite place to play when I was a little kid. My babysitter used to bring us there and just let us loose on the rocks. And
it's a lot of climbing. It's a lot of jumping.
Exactly.
There is a lot of... not aerobatics. What's the word?
Acrobatics.
Acrobatics.
Yep.
Gymnastics. There's a lot of that involved in it. It is a very, very physical type of sport.
Yep.
But that being said, and this is something that you wrote to me about, I think what, the initial audience reaction was okay, I'm too old for this. This isn't going to be something that I'm able to do. And that's actually something that's not true, correct?
No, that's exactly what we're trying to kind of fight back against. The media has portrayed this image of parkour as this high-flying adrenaline kind of thing sponsored.
But that's what the videos show,
The
Blake.
videos are quite sexy, and I really wish we could
though.
show them. I apologize. We'll have to send you the links.
Yeah,
They'll be on our website.
I have plenty of links if people are interested.
Okay.
And but that's the thing that the media has really portrayed because that's what makes them money. And that's what people want to see is the high-flying stuff. They don't want to see the hours and hours of kind of background training that you do in order to be able to do that stuff.
Okay.
And also, that's a very kind of specific demographic. There was the primary demographic for parkour is 16 to 20-year-old boys or young men. And,
it makes sense because that's where it actually started.
But today, the sport has spread way beyond that. And actually, a lot of my classes right now are 50-50. Male, female, and we have a lot of kids. We have kids as young as 4.5, and we have adults participating that are up to 60. I think 62 is my oldest participant at this point. And it's really just a great way to go out and have fun.
So in my day, Blake, parkour, we used to call it running from the cops. I mean, jumping over fences of Somerville and climbing the rocks in Powder House. We were trying to get away from people.
Yeah,
but
and now look
I watched a lot of it. Watching the videos, there is an enormous amount of athleticism that's involved in this. Yep. But what you're talking about is the training on how you get there.
I mean, I guess I should address the first thing is the running from the cops. That is an image that a lot of people have. Yeah. But I think people should be aware of the fact that a lot of cops are now learning parkour. So when considering this might not be the best method. It might be better to not run from the cops. Yeah. That is kind of our viewpoint, especially because in London we train a lot of the special forces, the military guys. We train police, we train firemen. A lot of those guys are regulars in our classes, and when we lead classes in London, we have the cops that'll be kind of on patrol. They'll come in and join in some of the classes, and
so
it's a really good relationship.
Let's come back though. You've started this just about 6 months ago, 8 months ago here in the city.
I got back to the U.S. in September.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been about 2 months now.
Yeah. So you've launched a branch in Boston and Somerville. Or Boston Somerville branch.
Parkour Generations Americas in Boston.
Yeah.
But so being from Somerville is my home base. Yeah. And I went to Somerville High. So one of my primary goals is to bring parkour training to the youth of Somerville, especially people at the high school. And that's kind of been in the back of my mind for the last few years, and it's great to be back to have this opportunity.
And it'll also tie in quite well with the initiative, the Shape Up Somerville initiative, which is wonderful.
We've had a lot of support from the mayor and kind of other big figures over in City Hall. Kind of growing up, seeing them all kind of come into their positions has been cool, and now being able to work with them has been really great. And yeah, we've got a really great reception there.
Okay, so for those, I think the concept, again, the video, we're missing the video, but that's okay.
How about some links?
No,
we'll
wait a
give
minute.
some people some links now, and then we can talk about more at the end
Well,
of
I
the
do
show.
have a question, but okay.
But give the links. Go ahead. You get used to it.
He's not
This is
always
parkour unto itself.
He's not always
you know.
this rude.
This is verbal parkour.
This is verbal
He's upset
parkour.
because I didn't get the technology to work.
Okay,
That's okay.
I would suggest that if viewers have access to YouTube at this point,
Yeah.
they look for Parkour Generations,
Okay.
and either that or look up Go Girls Parkour,
Yep.
And it's P-A-R.
K-O-U-R.
O-U-R.
What's the meaning of the word? What's the basis of the word
I'll give
itself?
the other video
Okay.
and then I'll explain. And then the other one I'd recommend is City Gents. And just search City Gents
Saw that,
Parkour and
yeah.
Go Girls Parkour. Those are pretty good representations.
We'll have those links
Okay.
up on the web.
Yeah.
Yep.
And parkour actually comes from the French word parcours, which is P-A-R-C-O-U-R-S, which means a obstacle course or kind of a course that one navigates. And so adding the K was kind of a way to almost bastardize or kind of signify that it was different from the
Customize it.
French. Yeah.
They customize it for the sport.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where are the classes being held now? Do you have a specific location?
We run classes all over the city, and so right now I'm teaching in a number of schools around in both Somerville and Cambridge. We're looking to expand to Belmont and Arlington.
So you go to the schools
I go to the
versus
schools.
they have to go to a certain...
Yep, and then
Place.
we run classes in schools. We also run indoor classes now with the Somerville Recreation Department. Those are held at the Cumming School on Mondays and Fridays for
Okay.
kids and adults. And there's an outdoor class that changes every month or so. The location changes so we can get to know the parks of Somerville. That's currently being held in November and December in Prospect Hill Park, right up the street, which is a great place to train. We were just there this past weekend, and it was a lot of fun.
But not your first exposure to the Prospect Hill. We're gonna
I was gonna bring that up
if
later.
this face looks very familiar. Cayenne and I did King of the Ville a few weeks ago, and that's been up on Scat TV.
And on our blog.
And on our blog, and the link from Somerville Scout is up there. It was a race across Somerville, and Blake Evitt was one of the participants from the Magoon Ball Winter Hill team that was in the lead. I don't know why I didn't cancel you coming on the show, but they were in the lead all the way almost to the end, representing.
I heard this.
And then the mayor's team
Okay.
from City Hall took over.
I think something was a little fishy there.
But some of the best video, if you go to Somerville Scout or you go to Greater Somerville's WordPress.com, you can see that whole thing. You'll see Blake in action, not quite parkouring.
Yeah, I didn't actually have that much to
But
back up.
the best video, the best segment of that whole thing was watching the mayor trying to get up the steps of Prospect Hill Tower.
Joe, come on now.
I've already teased him multiple times since I've seen him. So.
Well, I was actually looking on the Somerville Scout website, and you were number 2 for wearing the head cam. I don't think you did wear the helmet cam.
We did.
There was like
wear,
a big poll.
Yeah.
Did you get to wear
Yeah,
it?
my teammate actually was number 1, so I
Right.
gave it to one to us and one to the next team.
Yeah,
Very popular.
that was cool. So back to parkour. I'm sorry.
So no, the question that I have is the vision that I get, especially because of these videos that I did watch, was this, the whole flash mob.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's when you're in Grand Central Station and all of a sudden, there's about 100 people or so that break out into song and dance, and nobody really understands why. It's a kind of a very orchestrated, calculated thing that just happens out of.
Are you talking about an alderman's meeting, or are you talking about...
Yeah,
That's what
they're not
happens.
usually that exciting. There's not. If there were a flash dance at an alderman's meeting,
Yeah.
I would attend.
I
So
would
put that out on the radar. You'd attend.
go,
Parkour. If I could see some of the aldermen doing parkour, I would be all over that. But anyway,
There's
no,
a challenge.
There is a challenge.
The Alderman's Parkour Challenge.
I'm happy to set something up with them.
So my question is that obviously that parkour, is it more seen as like a group event, or can it be individual? What do you think of that?
That's one of the greatest things, is that you can do it basically anywhere, with anyone, by yourself. I do a lot of training by myself here because I don't have a huge network. But I've been traveling for the last almost 2.5 years, and I've been meeting with these parkour communities all around the world. And that was one of the best aspects of it, was meeting all these different people and training with them and kind of getting to know them, staying with their families. So it is a very much a communal event, but it can also be very individual.
Right.
So it really just depends on personal style.
So you did a thesis on parkour.
I wrote my
Tell me a little bit about that.
My senior thesis for I was a French major at Davidson, so I wrote my senior thesis in French about parkour's evolution in France and kind of why and how it evolved. And I actually received school funding to spend a month with the founders of parkour. Some of the founders in parkour outside of Paris, which was was a great time. And I still have a very close connection with those guys now, and I work for a clothing brand that they've started. So
you're a model too. Wow.
I am their brand ambassador. So
yeah, nice. Your brand ambassador.
Oh, I love that.
I like that.
I love the way they change things. It used to be called the spokesperson. Now it's the brand ambassador.
That sounds good.
I mean, two words on your business card is a little bit better than one.
I like it. I like it. I'm not criticizing Blake. I like it, you know?
So how did you end up, you did your thesis. Let's back up a little bit. You've traveled a lot more than most people, which is really impressive. Like 10 countries, and you were done. Give us a little background on that.
So I graduated after writing my thesis, I had a postgraduate fellowship given by the Watson Foundation to study parkour as an agent for social change for a year while traveling around the world. So I spent 365 days traveling around the world to 10 different countries and teaching and researching and training with all these different groups. And I was due to come back to do my master's degree at UVA and decided that I wasn't done traveling yet. So I continued traveling for another 1.5 years, and I just got back in September. But that time I went to a lot of countries in Europe and also went to Thailand to help Parkour Generations open up our Asian branch based in Bangkok.
Wow.
And so, it's been pretty amazing. And a lot of this has been due to parkour. And going into college, I never thought I'd be doing parkour. I thought I'd be kind of going the typical route. Yeah. And I guess I've diverged a little bit. But I really love it.
You also realize I know your mom, right?
I know. I didn't want to bring...
And this diversion is only temporary because... weaving into that conversation is you're not done with your education. You realize that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there is probably an MBA at some point in the future.
At some point.
But at this point, parkour, I want to see how far I can take it.
Right.
And I really want to help start things up in this area and kind of give back to the community that I grew up in.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I had one more question because I saw something when I was doing my research. Brazil?
Yep.
Brazil has an enormous following down there.
I spent 2 months in Brazil. I was in 8 different cities, so I changed cities every week, and I got to see a huge portion of the country, and Brazil was just amazing. First of all, Brazil as a country is amazing, but the parkour community there is the most developed in South America. One could almost argue in the Americas. And the groups there gave me an amazing welcome, and it was just awesome to train with all these guys and to meet them, and hopefully some of them, there's one of the guys that will be coming in December at some point to stay with me for a bit and hopefully lead some classes within the Portuguese-speaking community here.
Great.
Do you think that has something to do with capoeira? Is really big down in South America.
Capoeira.
So do you think that's partly one of the reasons why that kind of...
Yeah, there is a big kind of overlap between kind of the movement styles and the kind of the interest in the training. So I've actually taken some capoeira classes to see what they do to my parkour, and I found it helps a lot.
What's the big difference though?
Just the capoeira, you're in the roda, in the circle, the wheel, and whereas parkour, you're basically everywhere.
Right.
There is a very similar flow to it. If you watch the Brazilian guys, the Brazilian parkour practitioners called tressers, they flow like they've got that kind of same rhythm as in capoeira, which is pretty fascinating. There's also a little bit of a samba beat there sometimes too, which is pretty cool.
It's very rhythmic.
But
very, very rhythmic.
Yeah.
Do you mind? Do you want to open up the phone lines? I mean, I saw it blink a couple of times, so I'm sure the viewers will have questions about it, but we can do it if you'd like to.
617-9, I forgot the number.
Well,
it's been a long time.
How about if we flash it up there?
628-9876. feel free to give us a call if you have any questions for Joe, myself, or Blake, obviously, is the guest you want to probably talk to. What was I going to ask you? You said something. Do you always do it to music or not?
No.
You can't really, because I mean, you have to carry like a boom box, and I know that's not obviously going to work with the
They have these new things that you can put in your ears now.
Those new things are actually a huge thing in parkour.
Right.
The iPod has really changed the way people train. You'll see in some of these videos, especially with some of the younger guys, that they always have their headphones in, which looks kind of weird when they're filming a video.
Yeah.
Because you would think that they'd be more engaged.
We have a caller. Let's hope that the phone lines work better than
Speaker only.
than the laptop. Just where do I press this?
Speaker. There you go.
Okay. Hi, you're on Greater Somerville.
Yeah, this is Lawrence with Dimble, the Somerville Police Department. I chased that Jordan and I caught him every single time.
I know, and look at what he's turned out to be.
A host on TV on Tuesday nights.
Very, very slow.
But you never caught me, did you?
Clearly not. All right, thank you. That was very fun.
We were before you got here, Blake and I were talking about, I asked him, I said, would you mind taking phone calls if people want to ask you a question? And he said, no. He said, do you normally take phone calls? And I said, well, it depends on the guest, and it depends. I said, but once in a while we get crackpot calls. So.
Well, you know what? That actually wasn't as much of a crackpot call. They were actually listening to the show. We've had people, we had someone call last week 4 times wishing us Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Some little kid.
It is a little bit early.
So, yeah, that's okay. Well, hopefully we'll get another call. But anyway, so no, here's the question. So you have obviously the things in the ears, but in order to be synchronized on some level, right? I mean, you have to all have the same, like you have to start it at the same time, or how does that work?
Well, for when people are kind of performing, performance-wise, you usually want to listen to the same music, and most performances are held in some sort of space where the music can play.
Oh, you can just
most
hear it.
performances
Okay, so
have music, but when training on your own, I personally like to listen to music a lot of times, but then there are other times where I just kind of want more focus on kind of how much noise I'm making, because one of the things about parkour is you want to be kind of soft, silent, efficient with your movement. So if you've got headphones in and you can't hear how much noise you're making, you could be
interesting.
Having kind of problems with your movement that you wouldn't necessarily identify. So I find training with and without music is good.
The one thing I meant to ask you, what is the discipline in the Asian arts that we saw in Flying Tiger? What was that movie?
Crouching Tiger, Dragon or something like
Crouching Tiger, Stupid Dragon, whatever that was.
Flying
What's
Tiger.
that discipline called, where they would move very silently through the air? I mean, I know it was all motion picture.
I was gonna say, I think they had wires on, so I'm not really sure.
I get that, Blake.
Oh my goodness.
Here we are parkouring on the set. I get that, Blake. Can you tell? But it's almost a similar movement where there's a grace to the movement, but it's almost superhuman. When I watch some of those kids vaulting these brick walls, it was with such ease and with such grace. But as you said to me, it takes a lot of training to get there.
The people that you see in the YouTube videos have usually been training for a long time. And what you don't see is the people that haven't been training and they're doing those massive jumps and whatnot. They usually don't do that many videos because they don't train for that long because they get hurt.
Those are the ones with the broken noses. Yeah.
That's a good segue to my next question. And maybe it's just because I know too many lawyers. However, here's the question. How does Parkour America, how does your organization...
Americas,
how does it deal with the liability issue?
That has been a big issue coming to the U.S., especially after teaching in places like Thailand and Brazil. It is a little bit of a transition for me. That's probably been one of the hardest parts about coming back, is making sure that that's something that's primary in my focus and in setting up these classes and running the classes.
Yeah.
But we do have liability, professional commercial liability insurance for all of our classes.
Yeah.
Most of the places we teach have insurance for that specific facility, and we also have everybody sign a waiver before they sign up for any classes. But one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is that the fact that all of our instructors have a certification to be teaching parkour, endorsed by the founders.
This is one of my questions. Certification of teachers.
I'm wondering, sorry, go ahead.
The certification is called ADAPT, and it's started as a kind of a coalition of groups in Europe, including one of the founders' groups, came together and created this certification standard, and has since, it's kind of the only internationally recognized parkour certification that is also recognized by the founders.
Okay.
There's a lot of ones out there, but they're not necessarily legit, and this is kind of the gold standard. And so all of our instructors are ADAPT certified.
Do you have a problem with people trying, I mean, because of its popularity now, do you have a problem with that kind of popping up where people say, oh, we teach parkour, but in fact they're not certified?
You have a lot of personal trainers and CrossFit instructors especially, that like to think that because they are really good at, or really strong, or really good at moving in their own discipline, that they can teach parkour. It's true that a lot of them, when they learn parkour properly, are very good instructors as well, but being certified in personal training or in CrossFit does not mean you're a parkour instructor.
What does certification entail?
The ADAPT.
How long is that program?
It's about a week long for the first level, and then that's kind of the first level, and then there's a second level, which usually one takes about a year later, because there's a very intense physical and kind of technical evaluation that goes along with that for the ADAPT level 2. And so people that have ADAPT level 2 are very, very skilled practitioners.
Okay.
One more time, how do people get a hold of you and find out where these classes are being held? So one more time for our viewers before, I mean, Cayenne has some more stuff, but we're getting up to the end here. So
a couple more minutes.
We have a website. It's called, it's pkgamericas.com, or just search parkour Boston. I think we're one of the first kind of results on Google now.
Okay.
There's a timetable of all the classes that we lead, and there's plenty of information about the classes themselves, kind of what to bring, what you should be prepared for. There's videos of kind of what to expect. So there's a lot of information on that site.
And the kids, when the kids partake in these within the school system or the rec department, the recreation department, the parents have to sign the waiver for those kids.
The parents also, yeah. Parents sign it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I really think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, you're the one that's more athletic than I am. You're between biking to work and running and all the stuff that I hear about. You know she's going to sign up for a class.
No.
You're more than welcome to sign up. I think you should try it out. At least once.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, wait a second. Time out. This whole thing is for all ages, and dare I say, you are not at 65. So
no, but I've been doing my own parkour in the privacy of my own home.
Sure, you have. Okay, I would like to. We're out of time here.
It looks like we're running out of time, so we want to thank Blake
I'd like to thank our guest, Blake Evitt, for coming on to Greater Somerville tonight and sharing the parkour phenomenon with us, and why you should check it out on the YouTube channel near you. And for those of you at home, don't be surprised if you see Joe and I out around the streets of Somerville practicing out parkour moves we learned here tonight. So make sure you check out our website for related links. And until next time, thank you to you, the viewers at home, for watching. Stay safe and stay informed.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, guys. It was great to be on.
Thanks, buddy.
Good night.
Thank you.